Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. Peter, the other day, apparently, some Russian drones flew over Polish airspace. According to the Polish authorities, 19 Russian drones entered Polish airspace, and the Poles, with the help of NATO mobilized its resources to help Poles take down three, maybe four of the drones. The rest just sort of landed all over the place. So ever since then, the Poles,
What was the damage, George?
well, it doesn't sound like any damage. Certainly,
Well, yeah, okay.
no real damage. But since then, the Poles have been indignant and been talking, blustering about violations of Polish territory. We're on the brink of World War III, and Poland has invoked Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty. Article 4 doesn't really mean a great deal. It just means that they're going to have a consultation as to
As if they don't have it almost on a daily basis.
exactly. And today, Friday, the United Nations Security Council will hold an emergency session to discuss this violation of Polish airspace. Now, we don't exactly know as yet what exactly happened. Whether this was accidentally some drones flew into Polish airspace, whether there may have been some kind of electronic warfare taking place, which threw the drones off their intended targets. It looked, certainly from some news reports have suggested, that the Belarusian authorities had warned Poland that there was some drones heading your direction, so they knew something had gone wrong with the targeting. Russia has said we didn't target Poland. However, we are happy to discuss this and see, what exactly happened. But right away, the media drumbeat, boom, 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 boom. What's Trump gonna do? What's Trump gonna do? Trump, yeah, they got to do something. Got to do something about Putin. So Trump was asked about this yesterday. Let's just listen to Trump.
Your reaction to Russian drone incursion into Poland?
Could have been a mistake. Could have been a mistake. But regardless, I'm not happy about anything having to do with that whole situation. But hopefully it's going to come to an end.
And that's it. So you can see, right?
Donald Trump has said this week he's very unhappy about a lot of things.
That's right. He says he's very unhappy. He was very unhappy about the Israeli attacks on Qatar as well, and we talked about this the other day. He's very unhappy. Um, um, but nonetheless, I think what's striking about that is that he really is refusing to be panicked into doing something. I mean, it's almost like he knows he's kind of being pushed into something. He really doesn't want to be pushed in. So, yeah, could have been a mistake. But anyway, but he also sent out a truth which was very cryptic, which I have to figure out what exactly he was saying here. He's got this. What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Which sounds like a Jerry Seinfeld bit. Hey, what's all this with the the Russia violating Poland's airspace with drone? And then he says, "Here we go." And so I think the masters of hieroglyphics are trying to figure out what does that mean. What does he mean by "here we go"?
There they go. They're trying to roll me again.
That's my understanding. That's how I understood it. But others I think, oh, he's getting ready to attack Russia, whatever. But anyway, that was Trump's truth, and now in response to that, Trump's claim that it could have been a mistake. Poland today rejected a suggestion by Donald Trump that Russian drone incursions into its airspace could have been a mistake. A rare contradiction from of the US president from one of Washington's closest European allies. Poland, backed by aircraft from other NATO, shot down drones that had violated its airspace on Wednesday. And then it says Russia said its forces had been attacking Ukraine at the time and that it had not intended to hit any targets in Poland. Trump told reporters that it could have been a mistake, but Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk responded on X, "We would also wish that the drone attack on Poland was a mistake, but it wasn't, and we know it." It's not clear how he knows that it wasn't a mistake, but he said a lot. After strong condemnation of Russia by European leaders over the incident, Germany said it had extended air policing over Poland. And then here we have the emergency UN Security Council meeting, and then it says that which is going to take place today. And then in response, Poland's foreign minister, Radoslaw Sikorski, wrote on X, "No, that wasn't a mistake." Now, remember, this happened in November 2022 when Poland also did this whole thing that we're under attack from Russia. And there was a lot of bluster then. And interestingly enough, the Biden administration wasn't moved by this talk from Poland. They weren't buying it for 1 minute that this had happened. So something similar is happening now. Earlier, Sikorski told local Radio Poland planned to use the Security Council meeting to draw the world's attention to this unprecedented Russian drone attack on a member of the UN, EU, and NATO. Now, notice what Poland is doing here. Poland is directly accusing Russia of deliberately targeting Poland. They're saying you deliberately attacked Poland. So they, it's not like, hey, you violated our airspace, we don't appreciate it. No, it was a deliberate targeting of Poland. That's what they're accusing him. He added that the Polish authorities had no doubt the act was deliberate. 19 violations of our airspace, several dozen drones identified, a few shot down. The action lasting 7 hours, the whole night. So we cannot say it was an accident. But what's interesting is the response of
Well, you can't say it was an accident, but can you say it was intentional?
Well, that's it. I mean, that's there's a big difference to saying we don't like the violations of our airspace. Another thing to say you deliberately attacked us. That's a very different accusation, and that's why Trump said, "Well, it could have been a mistake." Now here is Alexis Grinkevich, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander Europe. And he said at a briefing on Thursday that it was unclear whether the incursion was deliberate. "We do not yet know if this was an intentional act or an unintentional act." He added that he had low confidence in Poland's claim about the number of drones. Imagine you come, your NATO Supreme Allied Commander, and you say, "I have low confidence in what the Poles are saying." Because they talk about there were 19 drones, and it says, "I have low confidence in these claims." I would
Well,
not be able.
you can interpret that in so many different ways, okay? Because maybe the Russians are testing and to see how NATO unity stands up. And they figured right, probably. It doesn't. Okay. You can keep going.
Right.
This is a very interesting story.
Great. I would not be able to tell you with any confidence today that it was 20 or that it was 10.
Mm.
We just have to get into the technical details to figure that out, to debrief the crews that were up to see what they saw. And then, this is the New York Times story, blah, blah, they saw, and then so on. But this is kind of an interesting thing because, after all, the rest of NATO immediately got involved in this. Poland and NATO air forces launched warplanes and put ground-based air defenses on high alert, the Polish military said, adding that Dutch F-35 fighters had taken part in this response. It said that drones had repeatedly violated the country's airspace after Russia began a wave of strikes in Ukraine.
Apparently, an Italian plane was called, but they didn't make it in time. It's so typical.
Didn't make it in time. Oh well. Better luck next time. And then NATO forces shoot down drones over Poland, and then so NATO fighter jets have shot down Russian drones and so on. And in a televised address, Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk said the country and its allies had successfully responded to a large-scale provocation by Russia, adding that no injuries were reported and that Warsaw stood ready to respond to further aggression. And then he later told Parliament that an estimated 19 drones entered Poland's airspace, of which about 4 were shot down.
What happened to the other ones?
Well, that's the thing. But given what the NATO Secure said, he says I have no confidence in these numbers. So 4 out of 19, that's not a particularly high strike rate, but they apparently just landed all over the place. But then we don't know whether they were really separate drones or whether they were debris that was landing. NATO leaders condemned what they described as Moscow's testing of the military alliance's defenses. And just before the large-scale war games, Russia and Belarus, there is no reason to claim that we are in a state of war, Tusk said, but he added that the situation is significantly more dangerous than all previous ones. So he says,
well, that's an interesting statement coming from the Polish prime minister. There's no reason to claim that we're in a state of war. Well, as far as Russia is concerned, they are in a state of war with NATO. Okay, it's amply clear that NATO is at war with Russia right now. Mr. Tusk, you don't get to you don't have the sole prerogative to define what war is. Okay, I mean, I really take exception to that.
well, it's very interesting because Russia, it has said that we're in a war with NATO, but Russia has, however, not extended the war beyond the borders of Ukraine. And that's a decision.
Yeah, but NATO's extended it beyond the borders of NATO.
Absolutely. And that's why this is a very interesting situation because Poland is not exactly a neutral observer in all of this. It's not like Poland is, just hey, we're just minding our own business. We're, nothing to do with us. Poland has been very actively involved in this war. I mean, if one starts listing all of the things Poland is doing, transporting military hardware, transporting aircraft, servicing weapons and aircraft for Ukraine and everything. I mean, Poland is essentially involved, pretty much directly in this war. So Russia has been very forbearing and has not extended the war to Poland. But Poland cannot really hope in perpetuity to enjoy this situation of that its borders are sacrosanct. You can't possibly attack us because we're not a participant in all of this. We're not a party to the conflict. Poland, of all countries, is the most directly involved in this and is a direct participant in the conflict. And then Poland responds, blah, blah, the Article 4 procedure. We had consultations. And Ursula von der Leyen, who, by the way, delivered her State of the Union address the other day, which is always, it just gets me every time she does this. She's an unelected bureaucrat, and she models herself on the American president who delivers an annual State of the Union. But the American president is directly elected, And the people sitting in before, like the members of Congress, they also were directly elected, national elections. Now, the people who are in the European Parliament, I mean, they take part in elections that no one else takes part in. I mean, it's like no one ever votes in these European parliamentary elections because it's just who cares about that? But she hasn't been elected or anything. So how does she get to declare what the State of the Union is?
And just to back up George's point, I call her Ursula von der Leyen. That's how I'm going to refer to her, moving
Right.
forward. But everyone that preceded her, they never behaved this way.
No.
And nothing structurally has changed.
No. So in this speech that she delivered, the State of the Union, she mentioned Ukraine 35 times. I think that's an all-time kind of cup record. 35 times. Ukraine, which is not a member of the European Union. So she's telling the State of the Union that the only thing that interests her is nothing that goes on actually inside the EU, but what goes on in Ukraine. Anyway, so said the Iranian designed Shahid drones were involved in the reckless and unprecedented violation of Poland's and Europe's airspace. And
Does she know that? I mean, the head of, we just referenced the NATO official has very low confidence in all this. She
right,
seems to have a very high confidence.
exactly. That's what I think is quite striking in all of this is that not just Trump who seems to be playing it down, but even NATO itself seems to be playing this down. And said NATO said the drones were made with Polish numbers. And this is where, this is Poland was there. And here we have the statement from Mark Rutte on the violation of Polish airspace by Russian drones. And so there's several allies were involved alongside Poland, and they list, Polish F-16s, Dutch F-35s, Italian AWACS. That's a lot of hardware. 4 out of 19. You didn't do a very good job. I mean, you put all this up in the air, and you only got 4 out of 19, at least according to what the polls are claiming.
Well, I mean, again, I mean, look, okay, I don't know the backstory to this, but it seems kind of interesting. There was no lethal threat to
No,
Poland at all.
no.
Um, as far as we know, most of these things just crashed because they ran out of fuel or whatever. But they certainly got NATO to react, and maybe that was the whole point, to see how they're going to react, what the reaction time is, what kind of hardware they have, how much the Americans would be interested in it. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying it's plausible.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a theory. Could also be the story about the electronic warfare.
Also,
So no, I agree. We simply don't know what happened. Um, and then it says the North Atlantic Council met this morning and discussed the situation in light of Poland's request for consultations under Article 4 of the Washington Treaty. Allies expressed solidarity with Poland and denounced Russia's reckless behavior. A full assessment of the incident is ongoing. What is clear, the violation last night is not an isolated incident. But if you still have a need to make a full assessment, why are you going on about Russia's reckless behavior? You don't know. I mean, basically, you don't know what happened. And then said, oh, it's not an isolated incident. So either you know what happened or you don't know what happened. And let me conclude by saying that Russia is waging a dangerous war of aggression against Ukraine that continually targets civilians and so on. Allies are determined to step up their support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's escalating campaign. And
yeah,
then he
well,
gets,
NATO also is escalating.
well, of course, that's right. And then Reuters asks, do you have any initial assessment of the intent behind this incident? Was it a deliberate attack, a deliberate incursion, or a mistake? And do you have any particular message for Russia, for President Putin about this incident? And then Rutte says, yes, as I said, a full assessment is ongoing. But of course, whether it was intentionally or not, it is absolutely reckless.
What kind of statement is that?
It is absolutely.
I've been told by Dutch friends and colleagues that this guy just isn't very bright.
No, that may well be. He's like these politicians were there in perpetuity. They're very smooth. They're very glib. Um, but that's their purpose in life, just to be there permanently to spout whatever needs to be
Well,
spouted.
I mean, if it's not intentional, then how can it be reckless? Come on.
Exactly. He
This
doesn't
guy
know.
has a good command of this guy has a good command of English. You can't blame, his
Well,
language skills
but
here.
that's what look. I mean, Stoltenberg used to play this game forever. You just keep blabbing on and on and on, and that's all you have to do. Is as long as you don't say anything that's going to be embarrassing and that you're going to have to correct. He's just said nothing. Well, I don't know if it's intentional or not intentional, but I know it's absolutely reckless and it's absolutely dangerous. Now, then the obvious question arises: well, if it's reckless and dangerous, wasn't it reckless and dangerous to get involved in this war in Ukraine? I mean, Poland is not an innocent bystander. NATO is not an innocent bystander. If suddenly you're saying, hey, these Russian incursions into Polish airspace are reckless and dangerous, and if you're so concerned about that, then maybe you should have thought a little bit before getting so involved in this war in Ukraine, because that was always a likely outcome once you start extending this war. Um, but as I said, the full assessment is ongoing. And to Putin, I mean, my message is clear: stop the war in Ukraine, stop the escalating war, which he's now basically mounting on innocent civilians and civilian infrastructure, stop violating Allied airspace, and know that we stand ready, that we are vigilant, and that we will defend every inch of NATO territory. Every inch.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mr. Bumper sticker there.
And then here's from Bloomberg: NATO is preparing a defensive military response to the drone incursion in Poland to strengthen deterrence across the alliance's eastern flank. There will also be.
Well, maybe this is what the whole point of the exercise is. Again, returning to I postulated that this could be a calculated gambit of seeing what NATO's reaction will be. Well, one reaction is NATO has to beef up its defenses, not Ukraine, but its own defenses. You
Right,
see what I'm saying?
right,
It's like it's directing their energies and their focus in a different direction. I don't know if that's the case here,
right,
but we see it being fleshed out. Okay, they have to put not supplying Ukraine, but supplying their own defenses.
right, right. Um, right. No, that's right. But but at the same time, as I said, I think this was always a likely outcome that these kinds of things were going to happen.
Yep.
And I mean, Russia, I think, has been very tolerant and very patient for some time. But Poland's involvement in this war has been so flagrant that it's very hard for Poland to go on expecting that our territorial integrity will be respected and no one's going to intrude
Oh,
into
and we're not part of the
airspace.
conflict. We're not part of the conflict. We're not
That's
part
right.
of the.
That's right. Um, anyway, there will be a political response and so on. And then militarily, it will be coordinated by Supreme Allied Commander Europe. His command is now assessing the situation and what supplies, if any, would be needed. And NATO is a defensive alliance, and any response would focus on strengthening its deterrence posture. Poland on Thursday has asked for allies for additional air defense system and counter drone technology to better protect against Russian incursions.
I'm sorry, George. Everybody knows I'm recovering from eye surgery, and my left eye is perfectly fine. But when you're reading this to me, my left eye goes down. Okay, it's so hard for me to focus on this ridiculous verbiage that we've heard year in and year
Yeah.
out.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely right. Um, Anyway, we'll follow what happens at uh, the UN Security Council debate. I doubt anything very much will transpire. I guess NATO will do its usual thing of complaining bitterly. Um, but that it's part of the goes with the territory if you're going to get involved in this
Exactly.
war. And the
You think you
notion
can keep your hands clean? No.
exactly.
And
And
George is right. They've been at the forefront of all of this. What is the major conduit country
yeah,
for arms going
right,
into Ukraine? Of course, it's Poland. It's also in Romania, but Poland is the main one.
right, right,
Okay. I mean, they're hip deep in this. And if something intentional, unintentional happens, and you get your bonnet on fire, I mean,
right.
come on, grow up.
No,
Okay.
exactly, exactly. So the point that they think, hey, we've worked out a very cute scheme, which is say we're only going to raise the price for Russia, but we don't have to pay a price of this war. So I think, no, well, I mean, you do have to pay a price. But like you, I don't know what really happened. I mean, we simply don't know. It may be that that this was indeed Russia raising the price for NATO and for Poland. Maybe this was deliberate, make it clear, yeah, if you want to continue with this, this is going to be part of your daily routine. Is that what you want? Like that could be.
Well,
Or
okay.
it
All right.
may have been
Yeah.
accidental, may have been this electronic warfare, whatever. But it's still plausible to think in terms of the Russia is raising the costs for NATO.
I want to know more about those drones. Were they armed?
Um, yeah, that's a good
We
question.
don't. We
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
know. We don't know.
I've heard there've been different stories about that, whether
Yeah.
they were armed or not. Yeah,
Well, I mean, so were they just, um, you know, electronic warfare pushed them off course? Okay, that's one story that's being circulated. Um, um, when you shoot down a drone, does it blow up? How close can you get to it? I mean, von der Leyen seems to know. She seems to be the only person that knows. Isn't that amazing? She's the only person that claims to know.
and that's the thing
Not
that
even the polls say that.
that's the thing about the 19 drones. How do you know they're all separate drones? How do you know that it wasn't just debris? I mean, when you were shooting at the drones, how do you know that well, these weren't just debris that was flying in all directions? So for
Do you
them,
know they were? Do you know they were drones? I
but
mean, at one point, and maybe it's because a novice like myself, what the pilots saw. I don't think in this day and age that you really see much.
right,
It's radars that tell you what's going on. So, what did the electronic surveillance tell you? Could you identify what the object was? Maybe you can't. Maybe it was too small. Maybe, you couldn't read the signature that it was emitting. I don't know. Okay. But I mean, for something of so importance, we have no nuance whatsoever. Okay. And
no,
then I saw on social media that I saw on social media, so everybody should be careful, right? A house damaged in Poland. And then others wrote, yeah, that happened during a storm a few weeks ago. That house was already damaged. And well, if it was a drone, can we see the debris from the drone that hit the home before you make that claim?
right,
Okay, I'm open to many different interpretations of this. I'm trying to be open-minded, but give me some facts. I mean, not just supposition. This was an intentional aggression. If it's so very important, and it's the question of war and peace, can you make a stronger case?
right, right. No, it's a very good point. The one should say, and it's in a way it's a little tangential, that the indignation from Europe is in inverse correlation with the apparent shrugging of the shoulders over Israel's attack on Qatar. There,
Yeah,
we knew it
yeah.
was intentional. They went ahead and sent 10 military aircraft flying 1,000 miles, long away from,
Well, and the British helped refuel them.
British refueled them.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, Sir Starmer, he came out, he was indignant. But it was your planes that refueled the Israeli plane. How can you? Oh my goodness. This is family-driven show. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's right. So they went ahead, dropped 10 bombs on Doha. Quite it would have been it was always quite likely that all sorts of innocent people would be killed, and some innocent people
And
were
they
killed.
were.
Yeah. Um, but that apparently is not doesn't seem to register. Ursula von der Leyen doesn't seem to say much about that. But here, these 19, let's say it's 19 drones, according to Sikorsky and Tusk,
Yeah,
19
well, I mean,
drones. No
how
one,
big were
not
the
one person was hurt.
how big were the drones? Okay, were they this small or the size of my apartment?
Yeah,
Okay, I mean,
that's
everybody, open secret, you can buy drones.
yeah,
You want?
yeah, yeah. But that they got very, very, very upset about that. So apparently, the uh, the territorial integrity of some countries are more valuable than the
Yeah.
territorial integrity of others. So they're still talking about it. I mean, this happened on the same day as the attack on Doha. I think on maybe the next day. Um, but that's already ancient history. But the Poles are still indignant about it. So that's why we're going to have this UN Emergency Security Council meeting where the Poles can vent their rage over with this terrible thing that's happened to them. And then no doubt they'll say, but we will stand by Ukraine. Whatever it takes, we'll go on standing by Ukraine. Well, then, maybe you're going to get thumped yet again. So, I guess it's up to Poland what he wants to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've said from the very beginning, and I hope I'm wrong, but before this thing is finished, there's going to be some hard thinking about what Article 5 means. And that's going to be a burden on NATO, not Russia, because Russia already sees itself at war with NATO.
Right.
Okay. I mean, this is all the Ukraine project all came out of NATO countries. Okay. And we know that entering the 11th year of this war, yes, going back to February of 2014, Poland was smack stab in the middle of it all. Okay. It was right there in the middle.
Was very much in the
And
middle. And who was the guy who was the guarantor of the February 21st deal between Yanukovych and the opposition? Let me think. Radek Sikorsky. So it's like the years go by and Radek Sikorsky always seems to be in the middle of it. So that's it. There it is. It's the same people, and now they're so bitterly complaining about something. A few drones entering their territory. No one's hurt. They still haven't been able to claim that anyone's been hurt, anything's been damaged. But they're so terribly upset about this.
oh, they love people. Oh, this is all part of the hollowness of what people call geopolitics. Everybody's in search of being the victim. The victim. We're victims. We're victims. No, you're hip deep in this whole thing, and you cannot be a victim. Okay, what goes around comes around. Okay, so
Sure.
yeah, like everybody knows, I lived there for a long time. I'm not surprised by this, feigned outrage. Okay.
That's
All
right.
right. All right, everybody, we're going to keep an eye on this here. This is kind of the drone gate that just didn't come to fruition. Let's put it that way. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with my postulation that it was a probing defenses. Okay, which was harmless. Nobody was hurt. Even that poor building wasn't a victim.
Yeah, yeah, that could well be. I don't know. But
I don't. That's my
I'm
theory.
open to
That's
that
my theory.
interpretation.
I have no inside knowledge. Okay. And on that point, okay, this is the Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. This is our Friday wrap. We reconvene on Sunday. And of course, at 10 o'clock Monday, we have the live stream. Buddy is reminding me, I understand a little Chihuahua, and I'm interpreting it. What about the tip jar? I think that's what I'm getting from him.
Yeah, he says it, and he's very sneering. He says, I mean, there's a lot of talk, a lot of empty gesticulations, empty bluster, but no one is doing anything specific. No one's doing anything concrete. So that's Buddy's view. So if you have money lying around, gold bullion, just put it straight into the into the tip jar. If for no other reason than just to keep Buddy happy. I mean, he's more than a handful. It's very difficult dealing with him. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can work on the technology. And above all, we're going to work on how we can appease Buddy going into the winter, which is a massive operation on its own. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.